proud history of Northwest Airlines and its pilots dates back to the creation of Northwest Airways, which began carrying airmail and later passengers between Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Chicago on October 1st, 1926. This heritage will continue into the future through the proposed merger of Northwest Airlines and another airline with a unique and special history, Delta Airlines. Together, Northwest and Delta will form the largest airline in the world, a mega carrier earning annual revenues in excess of $30 billion and employing more than 12,000 pilots. This global airline will also provide the most secure jobs in the industry to its pilots, derived largely from the stability the carrier will enjoy as a result of Northwest's hubs in the Midwestern United States, its order book of modern, fuel-efficient Boeing 787s, and its trans-Pacific network, including fifth freedom rights and landing slots at Tokyo's Narita Airport. A fair and equitable integrated seniority list should take these factors into consideration, along with the premium jobs the Northwest pilots bring to the merged carrier, flying such long-range wide-body aircraft as the Boeing 747 and the Airbus A330. The pilots in command of such aircraft have always earned the best compensation and enjoyed the best working conditions in the industry, and deserve senior positions on the merged Northwest Delta seniority list. This placement is further warranted by the superior length of service they have earned as a result of the years of employment they have as pilots with Northwest Airlines.
I came through the civilian ranks, and as I did, at the time I became eligible to apply to the airlines based on my amount of time. Northwest was definitely the leading airline for one main reason. They were one of only 2 U.S. airlines at the time that operated the Boeing 747-400. It's an amazing opportunity, and I was fortunate enough to get hired young, and someday I hope to have that opportunity to sit in that left seat.
The 747 is a great big Cadillac. It does everything better than any airplane I've ever flown. There's no gentle way to say it. It's the best airplane ever built. When you think of airliners in terms of movies to Air Force One to just little kids looking at picture books, the 747 is the first thing that people think of. From the day I got hired, I had my eyes on this airplane, and I feel like that's the consistent thread for all of our pilots. They want to come to work for Northwest Airlines because they have the real chance to fly this airplane. It is the queen of the fleet. It is the pinnacle of the pilot profession.
It's been great flying the 747, both in its passenger configuration as well as the freighter configuration. We're the only carrier that I know of that has dedicated freighters, and so the crew's trained to fly the freighter version and then the passenger version, and also military charter. As a matter of fact, I was honored to fly the first military charter in support of Gulf War I from the States out to New York in the staging area. And now we're the launch customer for the 787 with 68 aircraft on order and options. And again, we'll be leading the way of changing the way people do international travel.
We're the launch customer for the 787 here in North America. We've already started training for the 787 program. It's always an exciting time whenever we bring a new airplane onto the property, especially a 787, which has really changed in the way we fly airplanes. It's a totally composite airplane, very fuel efficient, and it's extra long haul. Yeah, I believe if you look at our international fleet right now, at the 330s and with the 787s coming on board, that we have one of the, if not the youngest international fleet in the United States.
The A330 was ordered in January of 2001 by then CEO Richard Anderson. Richard Anderson now is the CEO of Delta Airlines. He chose the A330 over its competitor, the Boeing 777. The A330 is a somewhat lighter aircraft, and its empty weight is somewhat lighter, carries more passengers than the Boeing 777. It has a cargo carrying capacity that allows it to be a significant contributor to our cargo operation. So from an operational perspective, a seat mile cost, it's a cheaper airplane to operate, allows the airline a cost advantage in competing on the routes in which you might also be competing against a Boeing 777.
Northwest Airlines has the ability to fly an airplane from the United States into Tokyo or into Osaka or into Nagoya, we can then pick up Japanese passengers and take them to another country. So Fifth Freedom rights allow us to operate like a Japanese carrier when we land in Japan. We are one of the 3 incumbent carriers from the original 1952 bilateral agreement, and it gave us the full Fifth Freedom rights. They are not going to be had any other way other than by that agreement. So Northwest Airlines is one of 3 that has that ability.
In the years leading up to the bankruptcy filing at Delta, there was a mass exodus of Delta pilots. They had the ability to take a lump sum and leave the company. And over 1,000 of their pilots took that option and they retired. Well, that is called attrition, and it allows the remaining pilots at Delta to very quickly move up the ladder and fill those vacancies. Well, now at Northwest, we're just now approaching a period of a tremendous amount of attrition. That attrition is going to happen in the next 5 to 8 years, creating a massive amount of opportunities for pilots like myself, junior pilots. And we believe those opportunities should continue to benefit Northwest pilots.
The opportunity presented itself to go to work for either Delta, Northwest, or United. And ultimately, I chose Northwest because I thought that was my best chance for a wide-body international experience, mainly because as the older pilots retired, as junior pilots would move up, and we were counting on that in order to fly international wide-body.
There's only 2 ways to get a promotion as a pilot: attrition and growth. Attrition is guaranteed, growth isn't.
Seniority, the length of service, however you want to define it. Clearly that is the bedrock of the profession for us. It defines the aircraft we fly, it defines the routes we fly, it defines the time off, the weekends, holidays, the schedules, the cities you get to fly.
Seniority is an amazing thing. It's a powerful thing. And everyone knows that when you get hired at the airline, you start at the bottom and you work your way up the ladder. My good friend and colleague on the Merger Committee, Steve Mayer, he was hired about 1.5 years before I was. And Steve today is an Airbus A320 captain. I'm an A320 first officer. 1.5 years difference, but that's the power of seniority.
When a pilot retires, you know you're going to advance. I mean, you are going to advance when somebody from the top leaves. So I knew going into it that if I got hired at Northwest Airlines, I would retire in the top 10 of Northwest Airlines.
I believe at Northwest Airlines, all of the pilots had a very bright future as a standalone carrier. With our attrition that we were going to be experiencing, we'll continue to experience over the next several years, that our younger pilots would have been expecting significant career advancement. So I would expect in this merger that those expectations would be preserved.
There's a new generation coming up behind us that has every right to this same career. You don't get here easily. This takes a lot of training, it takes a lot of education, and so those that do get here, they're not here by accident, and we want to preserve that for their future.
Northwest pilots are not attempting to take away any job or any opportunity from the Delta pilots. They've rightfully earned what they bring to this merger. But on the same note, the Northwest pilots must insist that the jobs and the opportunities that we bring to the merger continue to benefit Northwest pilots. We've earned them.
Well, I have been on the Retirement Insurance Committee for over 8 years. I've been the chairman for the last 2. But as you recall, there were a number of defined benefit plans that were being terminated several years ago. And we were able to work collaboratively with our management to secure legislation. It was actually a provision within the bigger Pension Protection Act of 2006. And that provision allowed us to preserve our defined benefit plan, although in a frozen state, but it preserves significant benefits for our pilots.
Although we have come through bankruptcy and the pilots were a part of that negotiation, now we've emerged with, again, the strongest balance sheet of the legacy carriers.
I'm excited about this merger. I believe that this will enhance the security of the careers of all the pilots at both Northwest and Delta. I would hope to use my experience over these last number of years, having been involved in 2 other mergers previously, to work through and to be able to develop a seniority list, a combined seniority list that would be able to preserve the expectations to be a fair and equitable integration of the two pilot groups.
We're looking forward to this merger with Delta, and we look forward to working with the Delta pilots to make this a great airline. We both know we have unique things to our culture, and we hope that we can respect and move forward with both of those.
A merger is much the most traumatic thing that can happen to a pilot's career other than going out of business. And so this is a critical juncture for everybody's collective career histories.
We see this as a merger of equals. It's two great airlines with two great histories coming together to create the world's first, truly first, global airline.
These Northwest Airlines pilots have articulated the philosophy of the Northwest Merger Committee, that the arbitration panel should build a fair and equitable merged list that preserves for each group the jobs that it would have had absent the merger, that due attention should be paid to the premium jobs brought to the merged carrier as a product of Northwest Airlines' network of international routes, its long-haul, wide-body aircraft, and its fortress hubs in the Midwest. That careful consideration should also be given to the length of service of every Northwest and Delta pilot, and that the promotional opportunities generated by each group's attrition should be reserved for the benefit of that group. These elementary axioms are the foundation of our case.